Hey, welcome back to Business 101, Introduction to Business. And in this fourth video on the topic of information technology, we want to look at what does it really mean that the network is the computer. Now, this is an old catchphrase dating back to the mid-'80s. We'll talk about that as well. But what is really the implication that the network is the computer? As you recall from our last video, we talked about networks and basic system architecture, right? Some basic definitions that a computer network is a group of two or more computers linked together by some form of connection and communication technology, whether that's physical cabling or wireless. And the whole point is that two or more computers linked together can now share data, resources, processing power. In fact, they can typically share the architecture, second bullet point, where one is a client. You are sitting in a classroom or at home or in an office, and you are a client with computing needs, and therefore, as a network client, your computer, communicates with the network server that provides all of the information, data, processing power, resources, storage, data manipulation, and serves it to you as the client in such a way that now your computing power and your reach is expanded, is mobilized, doesn't need to be centralized in the same place the server is. It provides all sorts of new opportunities and capabilities, functions, features, and business opportunities. And that's really what we're talking about in this lecture, the marvel and the exponentially greater possibilities made available to us because of computer networking. So a little more on system architecture. You can see here that nowadays what has become greatly empowering to us, both in business and as simple consumers, is the idea of Wi-Fi, which is a wireless high fidelity communication protocol. There's actually several of them, right? That allows wireless communication technology to connect computers without the need for physical cabling. This allows, for instance, you to connect to the internet from coffee shops, from home offices, from stores, from your doctor's waiting room, from the middle of the floor at a retail store, from the warehouse at Costco, from on the bus commuting to work, inside your car, wherever you have persistent broadband wireless communication, you can access the great power of the internet. This can take two different forms. You can see there at the middle bullet point, the wide area network, computers that are linked over very long distances through a combination of wired and wireless connection technologies. You don't really need even to know what are all the technologies involved in connecting you to distant servers and distant networks. It might be a combination of wireless and wired and satellite technology, but it doesn't really matter to you as long as you have a connection. Contrast that with the local area network, or the LAN, computers that are linked in a defined physical area. For instance, all of a firm's computers within a single building on a local area network. Now, from the very beginning, there were reasons why we distinguished between LANs and WANs in terms of some of the technical protocols, technical details, even getting down to the nitty-gritty of exactly how does computer wiring work. But more and more so now, that's the domain of networking experts, the folks who will maintain your network, sort of as a plumber maintains your plumbing. You don't really need to know all of the technical details. You just need to make sure that the network is kept running, connected to all of the other networks you need to be connected to for business purposes. And this brings us to our famous quote, "The network is the computer," which was a famous quote I heard first all the way back in the mid-'80s, 1984, when John Gage, the CEO of one of the very first large-scale computing companies in the world, Sun Microsystems. You see there depicted in the picture on the slide there, a Sun 2 workstation. Sun Microsystems developed some of the very first usable Unix workstations for local area network computing, which at the time was all they had because the wireless technology didn't exist yet. But the point of the quote that John Gage was making here, that the computer is the computer, but eventually he was predicting, or some say prophesying, that eventually the computer would only be valuable as it was connected to other computers, and thus exponentially, logarithmically, by an order of magnitude, increasing the reach, the scale, the computing ability, the processing power, and therefore the options and opportunities that computing had promised for the distant future someday would be made real when networking became the de facto way we thought of and used computers. Unique in that day, for those of you who are sort of interested in this kind of thing, unique in that day, every single computing device that Sun Microsystems made was out of the box, ready to be networked to other computers. This was not true of any other computer out there, but Sun really was committed all the way back from the mid-'80s to the idea, to the concept at the time, to the dream that someday the network would be the computer. Not simply the computer in front of you, but the entire network to which it's connected. Now, of course, we know that that's true today because of the internet, and therefore certain things have happened for us. Today, the network is the computer means we are always connected. It's rare for us to find some place where we don't have a Wi-Fi connection, where we can't connect to the network. In fact, we even joke about those kinds of places, perhaps vacation resorts in tropical places where there's beaches, where intentionally they haven't wired it for Wi-Fi so that you're forced to not be connected while you're on vacation, right? We complain about the fact, how on earth could you imagine the concept these days of a coffee shop that didn't have wireless internet? That's almost an oxymoron these days, right? We expect to be always connected. And that also means that we expect more and more so for everything to be connected. What do I mean by that? Well, not only our smartphones, and not only our laptops, and not only our tablets, but we also expect to be able to speak into a speaker device in our homes and connect to Siri or Alexa or Google. We expect more and more so our doorbells to have video cameras built in. We expect to be able to turn up the heat of our furnace at home while we're still at the restaurant because of our Nest connected thermostat. We expect our refrigerators to be able to give us an inside view from the grocery store so that while we're in the grocery store, we can check whether or not we're short on milk or orange juice and make the appropriate purchases, right? Devices, also known as the Internet of Things, more and more so connected, and therefore not only always connected, but everything connected. What does this mean to us? It means that information is available everywhere, so that you're at the ball game and you're curious, what is the current batting average for the guy who's on the on-deck circle? Hey Siri. Information available everywhere. And going hand in hand with that, of course, information available instantly, right? Information is only valuable based on timing, right? And so, for instance, in a typical dinner gathering, when you want to know what time does that movie start, if you're thinking of going to dinner and then a movie, well, that information is only valuable to you as long as it's delivered to you while you still have the opportunity to make a decision about whether to go and buy tickets to that movie or not, right? It also means people are available everywhere, even if they aren't in your physical proximity. You should be able to text them. You should be able to FaceTime them. You should be able to connect to them. It also means if they're available everywhere, they're available instantly, right? Why isn't he getting back to me? I texted him a day ago. I texted him 3 days ago. Why isn't she calling me back? right? People available everywhere and instantly. And what does that really mean? If both people and information, it also means what? That there is enormous computing power available everywhere and instantly, so that you can make purchases wherever you are, so that you can analyze and parse the data wherever you are. It means you can make better business decisions wherever you are, because the necessary information you need to weigh and to analyze and gain insight from, well, it's available everywhere instantly. This is part of the power of having now the beginning of the reality that the network is the computer. I hope this makes sense to you. Thanks so much. Hope that was helpful. We'll see you in the next lecture.